This is the Edgefield Broadcast Network, bringing you the important news of the day.
So before we start the video today, I managed to get a microphone. It's kind of a crappy one, but I have a little something to say about Josh Hawley and his utter stupidity with Zuckerberg. Don't get me wrong, I'm not fond of Zuckerberg either, but I have to go to his defense on this one. Hawley asks him, are you going to take responsibility for what these children have seen? Are you going to pay these families money because you're a billionaire? And if I was Zuckerberg, because he apparently doesn't think fast on his feet, I would have stood up, looked at him and said, Senator, this is a you problem, not a me problem. I'll take responsibility when you arrest and have every single gun manufacturer put in prison for the rest of their lives for the murder of tens of thousands of our children. They make these guns, then they pay you guys off. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not called a payoff, it's called lobbying. Same thing. And you guys keep the guns in tow. You don't hold anybody responsible, not the parents, not the manufacturers. I make tools to try to keep this stuff from children. I make tools for the parents to use to keep this stuff from children. This isn't a me problem, this is a you problem. Then I would turn to the parents and go, and you people don't discipline your children. You give them a computer, an internet access, and you walk away. You tell them, hi, have fun, go on the YouTube and do what you want to do, honey. And they run into crap and look for it themselves, purposely to find it. Again, I try to take care of this. You people do not. And if you don't like that, that's just too bad. And that's what it boils down to. Zuckerberg is not responsible for what these stupid kids see. He does do things to try to stop it. The parents can stop it. This is a parent problem. This is a government problem. This is a Josh Hawley problem and a Republican problem. These people are dumber than a bag of rocks. Let's let the gun manufacturers keep making guns and killing our children, killing Jewish people, killing blacks, killing Mexicans, going to the mall and killing people. But God forbid my daughter or my son saw a naked picture because they were actively looking for it, which is more than likely the case. Not always, but usually. And now we're mad at you. Screw Josh Hawley, screw the Republican Party. They're a bunch of hypocritical pieces of garbage. That's about all I have to say about that. Here's the story for you. Enjoy it.
Under oath in public, he worked for you. It's a senior executive. Here's what he showed he found when he studied your products. So, for example, this is girls between the ages of 13 and 15 years old. 37% of them reported that they had been exposed to nudity on the platform unwanted in the last 7 days. 24% said that they had experienced unwanted sexual advances they'd been propositioned in the last 7 days. 17% said they had encountered self-harm content pushed at them in the last 7 days. Now, I know you're familiar with these stats because he sent you an email where he lined it all out. I mean, we've got a copy of it right here. My question is, who did you fire for this? Who got fired because of that?
Senator, we study all of this because it's important and we want to improve our services.
Well, you just told me a second ago you studied it, that there was no linkage. Who did you fire?
I said you mischaracterized.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire?
Senator, this is why we're building all
Who did you fire?
Tools. Senator, I don't think that's.
Who did you fire?
I'm not going to answer that.
Because you didn't fire anybody, right? You didn't take any significant action.
It's appropriate to talk about like
it's not appropriate.
HR decisions.
Do you know who's sitting behind you? You've got families from across the nation whose children are either severely harmed or gone, and you don't think it's appropriate to talk about steps that you took? The fact that you didn't fire a single person? Let me ask you this. Have you compensated any of the victims?
Sorry?
Have you compensated any of the victims? These girls, have you compensated them?
I don't believe so.
Why not? Don't you think they deserve some compensation for what your platform has done? Help
Senator,
with counseling services, help with dealing with the issues that your services cause?
Our job is to make sure that we build tools to help keep people safe.
Are you going to compensate them?
Senator, our job and what we take seriously is making sure that we build industry-leading tools to find harmful
To make
content,
money.
take it off the services,
To make money.
and to build tools that empower parents.
So you
that
didn't
help
take
working
any
moms.
action, you didn't
That's
take
not
any
true,
action, you
Senator.
didn't fire anybody, you haven't
not true.
compensated a
That's
single
not-
victim.
that's
Let
not
me
what I
ask you
said.
this, let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well-
They're here, you're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
I'm sorry for everything that you've all been through. It's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
You know, why, Mr. Zuckerberg, why should your company not be sued for this? Why is it that you can claim, you hide behind a liability shield, you can't be held accountable? Shouldn't you be held accountable personally? Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I think I've already answered this. I mean, these
Well,
are
try this
serious
again.
issues.
Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I view my job and the job of our company as building the best tools that we can to keep our community safe.
Well, you're failing at that.
Well, Senator, we're doing an industry-leading effort. We build AI tools that...
Nonsense. Your product is killing people. Will you personally commit to compensating the victims? You're a billionaire. Will you commit to compensating the victims? Will you set up a compensation fund with
Senator,
your money?
I think these are
With your money.
complicated- Senator, these are complicated
Yes, no,
issues.
that's not a complicated question, though. That's a
Senator,
yes or no.
this is-
Will you set up a victims' compensation fund with your money, the money you made on these families sitting behind you? Yes or no?
Senator, I don't think that that's, my job is to
Sounds
make
like
sure
a
we
no.
build good tools. My
Sounds
job
like a
is to
no.
make sure that,
Your job is to be responsible for what your company has done. You've made billions of dollars on the people sitting behind them. Are you here? You've done nothing to help them. You've done nothing to compensate them. You've done nothing to put it right. You could do so here today, and you should. You should, Mr. Zuckerberg.
The chief executives of the nation's top social media companies were grilled on Wednesday on Capitol Hill over child safety, with the tech leaders seeking to defend their companies from accusations that they've failed to protect kids from exploitation and abuse. Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands, Sen. Lindsey Graham, RSC, said as the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing kicked off. The comment prompted applause from families gathered in the hearing room, whose children die after being ensnared in some of the darker sides of their platforms. You have a product that's killing people, Graham added. Later on in the hearing, Sen. Josh Hawley, RMO, called on Meta Zuckerberg to directly apologize to the families in the room. They're here. You're on national television. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people? Hawley pressed. The CEO of Meta, the parent company of both Facebook and Instagram, then stood up and turned around to address parents. It's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered, Zuckerberg told them. And this is why we invest so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the things your families have had to suffer. The Senate Judiciary Committee, in a hearing intended to drum up support for federal legislation to safeguard children from the online world, also heard from X's Linda Yaccarino, TikTok's Shu Chu, Snap's Evan Spiegel, and Discord's Jason Citron. Sexual exploitation of children online is a growing problem in the U.S. according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Daily cyber tips of child sexual abuse material online have gone up tenfold in the past 10 years, reaching 100,000 daily reports in 2023. Chairman Dick Durbin, DL, called online child exploitation a crisis in America fueled by rapid changes in technology that give predators powerful new tools to target kids. Of the CEOs who testified, Durbin said they are not only the tech companies that have contributed to this crisis, they are responsible for many of the dangers our children face online. Their design choices, their failures to adequately invest in trust and safety, and their constant pursuit of engagement and profit over basic safety have all put our kids and grandkids at risk. He said in his opening statement. Graham acknowledged there were some positives to the social sites. But the dark side hasn't been dealt with. It's now time to deal with the dark side because people have taken your idea. And they have turned it into a nightmare for the American people, Graham said. In response, the CEOs largely leaned into highlighting actions they've taken to try to alleviate these problems. Meta recently announced plans to hide content it deems inappropriate for teens. And Zuckerberg highlighted the 30 tools they built to protect kids and help parents navigate. In turn, each of the CEOs addressed the families in the room and gave their condolences. Though Zuckerberg also pushed back on the link between mental health and social media in his opening remarks. With so much of our lives spent on mobile devices and social media, it's important to look into the effects on teen mental health and well-being. I take this very seriously, Zuckerberg said. Mental health is a complex issue, and the existing body of scientific work has not shown a causal link between using social media and young people having worse mental health outcomes. Sen. John Ossoff, DGA, asked Zuckerberg if he wants children ages 13 and up to use his products more or less, taking issue with his past statements that the company's financial performance is largely determined by adding and retaining users. Do you have an obligation, as a chief executive, to encourage your team to get kids to use your platform more? Ossoff asked him. Zuckerberg said he would like the platforms to be useful enough that they want to use them more. Wednesday's hearing marked the first time Snap's CEO, Spiegel, is providing testimony on Capitol Hill in response to allegations that Snapchat is harming children's mental and physical health. Snapchat is also being sued in a class action lawsuit by several parents in California, many of whom say they lost their child to fentanyl poisoning and overdose with pills bought on Snapchat. Default Spiegel said he feels profound sorrow that his service has been abused to cause harm. Spiegel also discussed his support for the Kids Online Safety Act during Wednesday's hearing. Xt. The KOSA bill aims to remove harmful ads and posts, such as addiction, eating disorders, and suicide from showing up on children's accounts. According to supporters of the bill, I want to encourage broader industry support for legislation protecting children online, Spiegel said. No legislation is perfect, but some rules of the road are better than none. Yaccarino said X was supportive of KOSA, but Chu, Citron and Zuckerberg didn't commit to backing the bill in its current form. Legislative efforts at the national level have mostly failed, but state legislators have introduced more than 100 bills that aim to regulate how children interact with social media. Durbin noted the failure to push federal legislation forward, saying the tech industry alone is not to blame for the situation we're in. Those of us in Congress need to look in the mirror. Graham, the ranking member of the committee, said Republicans are ready to answer the call. These companies must be reined in, or the worst is yet to come, Graham said. But the CEOs largely showed no consensus of support for the various bills being pushed by lawmakers. X's Yaccarino said she supported the SHIELD Act, which would allow criminal prosecution of people who share others' private images online without consent, and the Stop CSAM Act, a bill to crack down on the proliferation of child sex abuse material. Asked if he supported the CSAM measure, Chu said the spirit of the bill is in line with what we want to do and would comply if it became law. Zuckerberg said he agrees with the goals in some of the handful of bills, but not the specifics, and redirected to Meta's own legislative proposal. Sen. Sheldon White House, DRI, said he wanted each CEO to put in writing what reforms they'd support to Section 230, a 1990s law that has given sweeping legal immunity to tech and social media companies.